muy TRRC recommendation because soo gisee ñu koy waxtaanee ba tey léegi def na ay at bi TRRC jeexale seen liggéey joxe seen report government bi def seen white paper ñëw adresse media bi waxtaan victims yi sax ñu ngi woon foofu that day wala some of the victims ba léegi mbir mi mu ngi slow tey soo ma bëggee wax since then lan la government bi maanaam implementé gu ci loo xam ne xëy na yéen mën ngeen ci duut baaram ba pare am ngeen ci satisfaction bu fekkee am na wax ma ne ma lii la ak lii la bu fekkee itam amut nga wax ma ngir ñuy seetaan mën a xam.
xam nga transitional justice is not your everyday justice dafa ute your everyday justice boobu process yi boppam you go to the court you seek redress and all that. But transitional justice process, dafa methodical torop. So it's a process bu nga xam ne one process leads you to another. So like soo ñëwee si recommendations yi nga ñëw si prosecution si ma doore ko foofu. Because foofu la ñëpp nekk di coow fu mu ne nii. Prosecution si some of our laws xam nga consistent with international customary laws. So MOTA, government the table a bill before the deputies, the special accountability mechanism bill. Bobu dafa laal si fanna bu nga xamne dina establish the office of the special prosecutor bu nga xamne moy investigate moy am the mandate pour set cases yu nga xamne dina ko try before a competent court of jurisdiction. So MOTA guy you passed the special accountability mechanism bill you def ko into an act. So bobu mo establish a hybrid tribunal. A hybrid tribunal dafa blend the international legal framework and domestic legal framework yep la blend. So in certain cases you nga xamne mun nga leena try within our domestic courts. So amna cases yo xamne lolu international crimes jurisdiction. So the guy in the court system dafa am an international crimes jurisdiction. Even xam nga nit yang ro won ne Yahya Jammeh su ñëwé fi duñ ko mëna até yobu ko court. Constitution bi section 69 dafa wone president bi act or omission ak yu nonu mënulo ko até yobu ko ci court of law ci lolu. Lolu constitution bi lolu that is affecting our domestic courts. But if you come to the special tribunal, the under the international crimes jurisdiction. So here, yange wa affaire jurisdiction. Mota sana manyante yobunen ko magistrate court. But magistrate courts, they don't have the jurisdiction. Puru try cases and before mota nyobu ko to the high court. So government be passing those, the act union, passing the special prosecutors, bill be passing ko def ko into an act. Lolu yep process la mu nga xamne implementation process la. So mënuma fay talk when the government bi nekkundi implement dara. I cannot sit here and say that. Of course, they are implementing certain things. It's a process. Legal framework be la guy the deal with su ko defé ñu mëna prosecute some of these cases because of they have international element. Like torture, for instance. Torture negotiation domestic laws. So MOTA, so if you bring all these legislations, dina muna incorporate both the domestic and the international legal framework. Because some of these cases, government dina muna start prosecuting some of these cases. Why? Passing active pare. But what is holding the government to start prosecuting some of these cases? Before you talk about Salam Manjang, big fish, you have them on the ground. Why don't you do the experiment on them? Why don't you take them before a competent court of jurisdiction? You have the legal framework. You already have the special accountability mechanism. You have passed it into an act, into a law. So you still have the infrastructure. The reason you need hybrid court, advantage be yep moy, hybrid court advantage from the international courts moy. You can still use local infrastructure. But you can have an international crimes jurisdiction within that, setup. So they can already start prosecuting some of these cases. Solbaji is here. What is stopping them from prosecuting him? When they have prosecuted Yankuba Toure and the NIA 9 trials, so what is stopping them? What is stopping them is the Ministry of Justice is asking for $60 million to set up a special tribunal. Does it make to prosecute a handful of criminals with more than $4 billion and compensate their victims? You want to prosecute 70 alleged perpetrators with more than $4 billion and compensate their victims, which is about 1,009 victims, with $237 million. Does that make sense? But our victims, let the victims demand $2 billion. You said, prosecuted those that bear the greatest responsibility. More those that are in command responsibility. Yahya Jammeh, Sana Manjangi, General Solbaji. But you can prosecute those people to set precedent. Never again, swing president wala taxaw di joxe orders to junior ranks pour ñu dem di rey ay nit. Because we don't have a system change. Security sector reform process is failed. If a reform process will spend more than $7 billion, mënuloo say achieve dara. And still you still have economic underground. We have failed as a nation. Transitional justice part of it failed. Economic president is the commander-in-chief. If the commander-in-chief been talking 9 years later, staple footam Yundum barracks or any other barracks, that is concerning. That is very, very concerning. About now, from the economic definitely waroon nañu prepare suñ boppa be economic ñibi. Yahya Jammeh right now du mëna ñëw ci dëkk bi because the country is not prepared for it. It's not prepared for it. Security, both security and political implication. Yahya Jammeh dafa am fan base, dafa am support base. The government have to manage them. They have to manage their expectations. And they have the right to support their leader. So, loolu yëpp dafa bokk ci part of, it's a process. So yes, government they have started implementing some of these things. But the major things, that is what we are talking about right now, is to compensate the victims. Comme nu ko Durija waxe, victims yi nga njëkk compensate. Ñu mujjee ci reconciliation. Obviously, we have to reconcile as a nation. Mënuñoo dëkk nii as a nation. Xew na ci yeneen dëkk yu nga xam ne fa la gën a grave, fa la gën a métti. Maa ci Rwanda, maa ci South Africa. Yu xew ci dëkk yooyu noonu xewul ci Gambia bi. Ñun soo capee ñu ne ñaata nit a TRRC ñaata nit a dee ñu ne about 240.
Including Ghana.
240. Okay. Nga dem Rwanda, more than 800,000. So them in South Africa, they are not even telling the figures. But Swiss government definitely ñu failed. As a government, ñu failed. Because process behavior dafa lack leadership. I think the president is the first person that should own up the process. We suggested to the government, there should be a presidential fund. Presidential fund dafa help with the reparation aspect. Because so just a president, a couple of years ago, they did a fundraising activity at the State House for the CAF tournament. How many $1 million in raised within a few hours? President could have led this process. They could have raised millions of dollars to pay reparations. We wrote to the district attorney of Maryland about the Potomac residents. We wrote to them because they could government be engaged. They could see paper. And then we wrote to the authorities in America, demanding that the proceeds from the sale of Jammeh's, the Potomac residents, should come directly to the victims. We wrote to them, we copied the Minister of Justice. And the authorities in America started contacting the Minister of Justice. Very day Minister, the guy called. They want to come to the victim center. They want to talk about this thing. They came there, what did they tell us? Kijera, you and your team, we should have first of all engaged the ministry first before you write to the authorities in America. No, we don't have to engage you first because you people never engage us about this thing. You already have your plans. So dialogue before discussions before started. Then we discussed and then agreed on something that they are expecting about $3 million from the sale of Jammeh's Potomac residence. So what the government, the AMI from that proceeds, they want to give a third as a reparation to the victim. That's about $1 million. $2 million, they want to buy a property in America, put embassy staff because they are paying rent. Okay, you cannot go back and forth with the government. And they have promised other, funding from, other budget lines and all that. So we agree because Johannes reason, yes, they want to stay away from paying rent. Understand that. They want to use $1 million and give it to the victims. But what we agreed upon was, there was $150 million the government set aside for reparation that year. So because of there is no successor institution to the TRRC, we should make a proposal how they can manage that $150 million to start paying reparation. We gave them our proposal. They came back to us, they said no. They made some vehement, transfer those monies to other, areas. So there was no win-win for the victims. The following year, same thing. No budget for the victims. This year, as we speak, 2025, the government allocated $40 million to the Reparation Commission that they established. $20 million more for operational cost for the commissioners and all that. $20 million guy they've got in a victims trust account. But they have still not started paying reparations. So they are paying salaries. They are paying salaries. So 1 year this reparation commission is working without benefiting anything to the victims.
Okay.
So they are ñun ci government definitely, I don't know who is advising them, but kenn bañu Adama Barrow. Kenn bañu ko. Soo gisee Yahya Jammeh su doon déglu nit yi lu bari luñ ko daan wax mu wàccee boppam problème bi yëpp duñ si doon am. Obviously he loved the country because this kind of development you fi def, but you get carried away by certain things. Nit dina ñëw wax la lu bon defal. Imagine the West African migrants. Somebody came and tell him that these people are mercenaries. He just jumped and killed them. So you have bad people all the time at your side. So ñun waa réew mi ñun ñoo war a bugg suñ dëgga. Président noo ko jege sometimes wax ko dëgga lu ko njëriñ ak lu njëriñ réew mi. I think the narrative should change. The mindset we should work on the mindset of our nation. Change mindset because we choose our leaders from our community, from among ourselves. So ñun suñ boppa suñ change to suñ mindset toppa suñ interest yi boppa dara du work on this country. Dara du dox si dëkk bi.
All right. Tey soo ma ñëwee loo xam la ci biiru accountability project Gambia lan nga may wax ci lan ngeen nekk ci di dox ak yu mel.
Accountability project Dudu Jah wax na ko I was a bit silent for the past, I had a mandate with the Victim Center. My mandate finished. Okay. So obviously other people take over. So we decided to establish the Accountability Project Gambia. Boobu tamit pour work with the government like we used to do with the Victim Center. We are most of the time. Sometimes we are critical of the way government operates, but we have been engaging government constructively. We had a very, good relation with the Minister of Justice, very constructive engagement in that avenue. But why switch interest? We fight our interest. lu nga xam ne jaarul ci yoon we say it, you know. But suñ needee suñ support, we give them our support. You know, TRRC proceeding, before the TRRC came, we were there. We documented more than 1,400 victims. But TRRC, we supported them. Some of the victims were reluctant to go and testify before the commission. We have to comment because they trust us more than the TRRC. So, li nga gis ne collaborative engagement lañ am. Waaye loolu du tax tamit nga wax dëgga, you know, because part of development is to be self-critical. So, I mean, the accountability project came, you know, pour complement, I mean, the government efforts, you know, in the post-TRRC implementation, I mean, the program, you know, make sure we monitor what the government is doing in regards to, I mean, the implementation, I mean, especially the post-TRRC prosecution. I mean, we are working with, I mean, the legal fellows. Bii dañ bugg a mu different, mu nekk something unique, a unique process. Dañ bugg a victims yi tamit ñu amee an attorney bu nga xam ne daf leen a represent. Any case bu nga xam ne daf leen concern. Like, for instance, I mean, this Sana Manjang case. We want to have an attorney bu nga xam ne dina represent some of these victims, Masi Deda Haidara family and all that. At least ñoom tam ñu am legal advice, ñu am interest ci case bi, you know. So bu mu nekk ne rek government dafa just prosecute these people like the NIA 9. The victim doesn't have a say. They don't have no representation. So we want to do that for the victims. We also want to work with the government. You know, capacity building for both the victims because they need to know the process. ñëpp a ngi dégg ne dañoo yóbbu kii court, dañoo fënëral, dañoo téye gaay rek yóbbu leen hang leen. These perpetrators, alleged perpetrators, I should call them, they also have rights. They also need to be represented in the courts. Understand? Their human rights also have to be protected. So it is a process that, I mean, that you have to manage expectations. Okay. You know, expectations that dañoo foog ne dañoo téye kii tëj ko lii or nga ñoo dégg lu nga xam ne tamit nga yóbbu nit court mu free. You should expect that as well, because you can. So you want to yóbbu nit court, you have to get evidence. I think most of the time that is what is holding the government from prosecuting some of these perpetrators. Because of TRRC, like I say, it is not a court. It was just a truth-seeking process. So some of their evidence are half-baked. It's not full. So special prosecutor's office, the FA police some of this evidence with new evidence, new, you know, understand nga. Lu nga xam ne dina tax evidence yi gën a dëgër pour mun a start some of these cases yóbbu leen to the court. Waaye ñu ngi expect ne rek bam, you have seen, I mean, the Solbaji, you have to just grab him and take him to court. Moo tax, I mean, pour government bi make a deal with the junglers pour ñu testify, there was a problem, a big problem for that matter, because nit yi ñëpp a ngi mënuñoo understand. Army bi arrest all these junglers, ñu detain them at the army camp. For several months, mënuñ leen a prosecute, mënuñ leen def dara. Because of why? They lack evidence to prosecute them. Because what the people fail to understand more, these junglers, the crimes that they have committed, they did it exclusively among themselves. Ken Hamusi, nobody got a clue, there is no evidence, there is nothing. So you need the compliance of some of these junglers to come forward at the TRRC to testify. Mota ñu mëna xam ñu ne Sana Manjang lii la def, Mali Jata mu ne lii la def, Oya mu ne lii la def. But you cannot force them. They can just go and sit at the TRRC and fold their hands. So when you defuñ ko xamuñ ci dara. You cannot take them to court. Yeah. You can only take people to court with evidence. So this is the reason government make a Minister of Justice at the time make a deal with some of these junglers to come forward and testify. So some of these junglers ñu testify. They will also use them again. When they set up all these hybrid courts and all this, they will come and testify against Jammeh and testify against Solbaji and testify among. So I don't know what the deal is going to be. Maybe they will get leniency, a lesser sentence. but that was the deal. But suñ defutoon lii tamit ñun duñ mun a xam dara lu xam dañ doon dégg rek ay foreign people ñoo doon jógee Casamance, Nigeria, Yahya Jammeh was hiring mercenaries, they're coming to kill our people. Why suñ doomi réew yi sax ñoo ko doon def? So people need to understand that. So this is why I think government they need to do more to sensitize the public. Xam nga information is very important.
All right.
If you are so economical about information, disaster, chaos la day indi si réew mi because people will be assuming. Te ñu ba nga ne Sana Manyang ak Yahya Jammeh dañ bëgg a ñëw coup d'état. Ban fact nga am si loolu. But that is loolu la ñëpp believe. That is the narrative. So certain people are controlling the narrative because of the silence of our government. Xam nga too much of politics. Dudu, you are right. Politics, you cannot separate politics from governance. But the governance summit, dafa war a tegu si kaw yoon, si kaw loi, si kaw rule of law. You cannot always look at your interest. Lu nga xam ne dina la génnal more political capital, at the detriment of the good of the people. So you yëpp lañ war a take into consideration.
All right.
So we are not anti-government, but suñ defutee lu war, we just say it. But loolu terewuñu tamit we engage them constructively. You are talking about the president engaging the victims. The president does not have the interest of the victims. They don't have the interest, to provide closure for the victims. Amuñ interest in justice. This could have been done ages ago. It could have been done ages ago. Government knew war a jël the bold step. You put something on the table. We need $4 billion. Government put $1 billion on the table. Nga soga dem si dono nga ne len ne. Starting process bi with that $1 billion nga say dono na duñ génné xaalis.
All right. Okay.